Welcome to SVG-TV News for Tuesday, December 13th, 2016. I'm Lafern Fraser with the details. He who knows only trade knows no trade. That's the view shared by Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Trade and Commerce, Nathaniel Williams, at the opening ceremony today of a 3-day trade-led development workshop in multilateral trading systems and the Caribbean countries being held at the Beachcombers Conference Room. Williams urged the participants from across the region to utilize the workshop to share their development vision and perspectives on an inclusive trade architecture for the region's development. The Permanent Secretary also told the participants not to look at trade as simply a discipline, but to be alert to the changes occurring regionally and globally.
We must look at changes taking place in the various regions of the world, the impact on the global economies, and the ultimate impact on global trade emanating from those changes within the region. We must be careful that we do not take on the philosophy of the boiling frog in the water. As it enters, there's a sense of comfort. But as that water begins to heat, the body adapts to that change accommodatingly. And while the frog is being boiled, it feels happy, not realizing the changing temperature is one which is rising and would slowly parboil its very existence. We must therefore ensure that those accommodations which are made to us are not events, they are part of a broader process.
Williams also called for firewalls to ensure the quality and appropriateness of products entering SVG and other countries in the region.
There were trees. We had some lizards in them that were biting lizards, and the Ministry of Agriculture has to move quickly in eliminating those. The point I'm making is that some countries are myopic in what leaves their shores, but have 20/20 vision in what enters. And so we must be always careful and be always meticulous in the application of measures as the barrier of tariff is reduced. There must be firewalls which are developed, and I'm not talking about barriers to trade. I'm talking about firewalls must be developed at the border to ensure the quality and the appropriateness of the goods entering our shores.
Meanwhile, the director of the Development Division of the World Trade Organization, the WTO, Shishir Priyadashi, said it is critical for small island states to utilize the workshop to reflect on areas of importance, such as how development became center stage and what can be done individually and collectively to ensure that the development process does not die. He said the process is one which requires give and take.
Irrespective of what you hear people say on public platform, irrespective of what you hear the big guys say from the public platform, the WTO negotiations is not altruistic in any way. Don't expect that you will get more than what you fight for. So there is a fight. There is an endeavor at every given speed. Don't think simply because you've got hurricanes and cyclones which often impact a large percentage of your GDP that there would be enough special and differential treatment to take that into account. No, they won't. You will have to. There is a strong give and take going on perpetually, and we also therefore, because of this reason, to sensitize you to these issues, we've also given, subject to the fact that we have time, we've got a case simulation on negotiations built up, only to highlight that this is an endeavor that has to be done individually and collectively.
Even with the enhancement to the main mental health facility here, more must be done to keep the number of patients there to a minimum, especially the youth. Speaking on the Issues at Hand radio program on Sunday, December 11th, 2016, Human Development Consultant Cecil Ryan said in his opinion, a growing number of young persons are suffering from mental health issues due to drug and alcohol use, and there needs to be a societal approach in tackling the issue of mental health.
That more needs to be done at the level of the home, the community, the churches and so on, to steer people away from this kind of, if you like, all the exposure to things which could contribute to mental illness, activities and actions. It could be that those actions themselves by young people are themselves grounded in other things like frustration, peer pressure. How are we going to deal with it? But we need to, because yes, the facilities at Glen were improved, but we would want less and less persons going to those facilities. And we can start with our young people by providing some good guidance from the home, from the community, from the church, so that they focus from the negative things, focus from them and focus on to the positive types of engagements and activities.
Commending the government and Ministry of Health for their commitment to enhancing mental health care in SVG, educator Philbert John, who was also a guest on the program, highlighted the issue of a young person's mental disposition, pointing out instances where youth become completely drawn to their electronic devices and even social media. John further stressed the need for young persons to become more sociable otherwise and engage in community activities.
Yeah, physically normal and healthy, but then they see a lot of deficiencies in the emotional health, in the emotional IQ, and we tend to ignore them as simply bad behavior and treat them accordingly. But in the absence of an environment where we have the experts or even teachers with the training to initially make some assessment and then referrals to experts. I'm afraid it's not just the drugs, but other factors that I've seen students almost get violent, even with teachers or people in authority, just at the thought of losing that even temporarily. So that's an area we need to pay attention to. And there's a lot to say about the traditional forms of socializing and entertaining and having fun and so on.
Humans are expected to be responsible stewards of the natural environment and must do their utmost to ensure its protection and sustainability. The encouragement came from Director of the National Parks, Rivers and Beaches Authority, Andrew Wilson, at the recent launch of the Reef Guardian project at the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Community College. Wilson noted that whilst climate change has had a major effect on the environment, studies done in the region show that land-based human action is responsible for the degradation of the environment, and used a biblical verse to illustrate the need for man to be responsible stewards.
The human element, the human impacts are by far the greatest and the most devastating impacts on our marine and coastal areas. And this is a study that is solid. It had over 90 experts, over 35,000 surveys. So it was doing actual work in over 100 locations across the Caribbean train, including St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Because the Reef Guardian program emphasizes and exposes more than anything else stewardship, it points me today to refer very early in these brief remarks to the book of Genesis and to reflect with you upon the creation story and what was communicated as a very profound and enduring role for us as humans, to have dominion over the birds, the fishes, and generally over God's creation. And I believe God also requires us, whilst exercising dominion, to also be good stewards of a most wonderful creation that sustains us.
Also speaking at the launch was Alanson Cruikshank, lecturer of environmental sciences at the SVG Community College Villa campus, who expressed delight in a program which gives students practical experiences in the protection of the marine environment.
Very pleased to see that the students would have an integral role to play in this project. And I know that sometimes the students who are doing these types of programs in the schools, they don't have the link between the theoretical knowledge and practical application of that knowledge. And these programs give them not only a role to play while they're in school, but throughout their lifetime, as alluded to earlier by Dr. Murray. So this will facilitate your development in terms of the participants, not only the students, but the community members and all other participants in the program. And we must also remember, as mentioned before as well, that as far as integrated coastal zone management is concerned, that we are concerned with what happens from the ridge to the reef. So it is not just about what happens along the coastline per se, but we must remember that we are a country that our entire country can be considered as a coastal zone.
Cruikshank said the SVG Community College has also been doing its part in protecting the environment through the use of projects such as the introduction of a solar system on the roof of the college's library, which has gone a long way in reducing harmful emissions which have disastrous effects both on the land and seascape.
Measuring the kilograms and the tons, because it's tons by now, that we have averted by not using carbon-based fuels. And of course, when these gases are released into the atmosphere, as you would know, that the greenhouse effect leads and contributes to the increased temperatures. And of course, we heard what that can lead to as far as coral bleaching is concerned and other effects. Also, these gases can mix with rainwater, react to form weak acids, falling back as acid rains, which can get themselves into the water as well. So, you know, we are playing our part, and we wish to again reiterate our appreciation and our thanks to the organizers of the project and those who saw it fit to get the students involved.
Historian Dr. Adrian Fraser will release his latest publication, The 1935 Riots in St. Vincent, From Riots to Adult Suffrage, this Thursday, December 15th from 6 p.m. at French's House. Dr. Fraser, who will be an upcoming guest on tomorrow's Leadership in Focus program on SVG-TV from 8:30 p.m., said more documentation needs to be done on the history of SVG. The former head of the University of the West Indies Open Campus, St. Vincent, said the book is written around the time period of the 1930s to 1950s and highlights the struggle of that era. He also noted that during the colonial time period, trade unionist George McIntosh, whom he advocates for being a national hero, was a staunch advocate for workers' rights.
Once you reach 21, you could then vote. I mean, later on it was reduced to 18, but in 51, when adult suffrage came, you had to be 21. So it was a different kind of people, and what is so good about the 35 is that we begin to see the modernizing of St. Vincent in a sense, and everything leading eventually to independence, you know. So 1935 was a kick-off point. It forced the administrators and the colonial authorities to do something about the situation. And let me point out that we are not looking at St. Vincent in isolation, because there were a number of other countries in the region that had riots during the 1930s. So that further brought to the attention of the authorities that there was something fundamentally wrong, and therefore they began to address some of these things.
Dr. Fraser said Vincentians have always been outspoken people. However, many of the civil volunteer advocacy groups have become dormant. Hence, persons are not coming together as much to thrash out issues.
During the period when I came back to St. Vincent after studying, I mentioned that the voluntary organizations and what we call development organizations are very active, so that young people could then fit into these things, you know. And so we had the National Youth Council with groups throughout the country, and they played an important role even in forcing us to recognize Chatterjee as the first national hero.
Right, that's true.
Today you do not have many of those organizations around, and times have changed. I guess a lot of us are on our tablets or computer, you know. So even in terms of sports, you could see that when I went to school, as soon as school was finished, I went home, changed to go back and play cricket or football. Today people go back and they get behind a computer, and you know, so those have affected what we are today.
Police are currently investigating the circumstances surrounding the death of Josmond Charles Hutchins, better known as Crab, a 62-year-old laborer of Kingstown who died sometime around 7:20 p.m. on Monday evening, December 12th, at the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital. According to reports, Charles Hutchins is said to have received a stab wound to his chest during a fracas in the Rose Place area and was rushed to the hospital where he subsequently died. A resident of the Rose Place area who asked for his identity to be kept private stated that he was only a few feet away where an argument developed between the now deceased and two others, and while he did not wait to see much of what unfolded, he urged them to stop, but to no avail.
It happened like after 7. I hear like a noise upstairs, and from the noise upstairs, they come down and been fighting on the step, and from there now the person pulled him from there and dropped on the ground and that by the trail up there. Me and another guy take him up from there and came over at the hospital. He died over there after. He was unconscious, and we take him up. The kind of dispute they had in the body, they really tried to go up there because it's like the kind of dispute they had there, I could have get damage going upstairs. So I couldn't even shout and tell him, well, don't know that, but nobody understood me. So I don't want to follow them there. When you see when the girl pulling them off the step, but then actually see when he drop. Because I my own business to attend to the same time. So same time that happening now, somebody called me to buy something. So I might come back in and look over now. He down there on the ground there. But he was unconscious. He didn't die as yet.
And where was the woman?
Upstairs.
They went back in the house?
Yeah.
A few other residents of the area we spoke with said Hutchinson's death could have been avoided.
So you said you saw him yesterday?
Yesterday afternoon. It was good. In fact, the morning was good together. I come in the morning, me and Crab and that same guy there, Richie. Mistress, we lay him together here so we still all talk. Yeah? Why do a man like that? What you do? He deserve that?
Most of say like me and we don't drink and say, Papa, come and take a little drink with me here because I see like, like something about his mind. So I tell him, come on, let me take a little drink. She let me drink. And like saying someone, they call him over this. I said, Crowd, where you going? You see water and the fishing boat and them coming in and let me go and pull up some boat and you get some fish for sale because he always just sell fish, The two woman, well, he always just getting anything with the one other. But the other one, and I come down and say, well, Crowd, that's a new face. I said, more, she look like a Delilah, I'll be staring from now on. She look more dangerous than her. He said that he's picking on them. Because they treat them good, they have crab, I send them crab all about to buy drink, buy this, do that.
So they're his daughters?
No, friends.
According to police reports, persons are assisting with the investigation. You cannot take back a deed of gift of property unless the deed contains a clause stating that the giving of the property is conditional upon the receiver fulfilling whatever request that has been stipulated within the contract. So says Queen's Counsel Parnell Campbell in his weekly The Law and You program aired on SVG-TV. Campbell noted that if the condition is not fulfilled, then the deed of gift of property may be revoked.
Deed has that in. And the person who gets the deed, gets the gift, doesn't fulfill the conditions which are stated in the gift, then according to the document itself, failure to fulfill those conditions would render the document liable to be set aside, to be revoked. All right? But if the deed hasn't got any conditions, if it is a straightforward, unconditional deed of gift, it cannot be taken back at a later time.
While it may be noted that receivers of a deed of gift of property can return it if the giver cannot it's the giver, who cannot rescind the gift against the will of the receiver.
Sure, the lawyer puts in that your lifetime is to be kept. In other words, you're to have a life interest in that property. They can't throw you out or send you to the lowest pen at home. You have your life interest in the property. If it is a piece of land in the mountain or other than where you live, well, you could always give it without a life interest, okay?
Persons here and in the diaspora continue to give rave reviews about the Melizwe brothers' performance on the popular U.S. television daytime show, The Ellen DeGeneres Show, on Friday, 9th December. The brothers, with the surname James, who were born in Canada to Vincentian parents, make up the trio of Zachary, age 9, who is the lead singer and plays the violin, Seth, 10 years old, who plays the keyboard and also raps, and Mark, 13 years old, who plays the guitar. They have taken the internet by storm with their version of the late Michael Jackson's song I'll Be There, which prompted the daytime talk show host Ellen DeGeneres to have them on her show last Friday. Chief Executive Officer of the SVG Tourism Authority, Glen Beach, said he was proud of how the brothers represented themselves on the show.
I think like every other Vincentian, once you see your fellow Vincentians get that notoriety, and especially on Ellen's show, which I think is one of the most popular daytime talk show programs in the United States, you have to feel proud. I mean, a lot of people judge how famous you are and how well you're doing by the U.S. because it is the strongest economy in the world. And seeing some Vincentians on there is really a great thing. I know before they went back, Minister of Tourism, Mrs. S. Mackey, was meeting with them quite often, knows their parents quite well. We met with them here once or twice from the Tourism Authority. So I think if you look at social media and you see all the shares that have been taking place, and I'm happy to see all the shares that have been taking place about positive things that Vincentians are doing.
Beach also congratulated the youngsters for flying the Vincentian flag high.
Cannot help but be proud of it, and you wish them continued success in moving forward and getting to where they want to be. I think it's you know, no different when you see people like Kevin Little and Skinny doing their things out there internationally. You feel proud, and with these young boys, you really do. And I think on the Ellen show, I think the fact that he made it clear that his parents are from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and you know, I think they really want to push St. Vincent, and we appreciate that. They really want to push St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
As efforts continue here to lend assistance to persons on the northern side of the island affected by the recent trough system, the mission of the Seventh-day Adventists has decided to play their part. The ministry is looking to raise funds for the drive through its annual charity Christmas concert dubbed We Can. Chairperson of the concert committee, Carol Bramble, told SVG-TV News that the concert has been held now for some 16 years and the funds raised go toward nation building. Pastor Brent St. John, Youth Ministries Director, said this year's concert is a timely one.
The weekend concert is so necessary, especially at this time in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, because we have the tragic loss of material and so forth and items that persons would have suffered in the northern parts of the country. And that's why we are giving it the added push this year, because we realize there's a specific need that needs to be addressed. You know, I believe we're heading down to that season of giving, the Christmas season that is so unique here in St. Vincent, and we want to ensure that persons can enjoy that time of the year. They can benefit from what they usually would benefit from, and what the floods and the waters have taken away from them. We want to see them get it back. So that's why we're having it at this time of year, and we will use that week heading towards that Christmas weekend to distribute, and we want to make it massive. It's going to be huge. We have been collecting in the different churches, cans and so forth thus far, and we want to ensure that when we head up to the above the river, that we can truly make a massive impact and persons can have a wonderful event.
Pastor St. John is encouraging the general public to attend the concert, which he says will be an enjoyable one.
It's an enjoyable time. We have puppet shows for the children. We have, just an exciting array of items, praise and worship. So folks can come down to have a wonderful experience at Heritage Square. And of course, we'll have barrels set up that folks can drop in their food items. Where there's not just cans, but non-perishable items like macaroni and sugar and rice and flour and all these other non-perishable items. And when we gather these things, we're going to have a wonderful concert. Just to tip it off, we're going to have an offering, and all proceeds will be donated to charity initiatives and charity organizations. But most of all this year, to the flood victims.
The Youth Ministries Director further urged persons to be mindful of the important factor of the concert, which he said is giving.
We'll appeal to the folks here in St. Vincent to give. This is more than, it's not an Adventist event. Yes, we are coordinating it from the youth department of the SVG Mission of Seventh-day Adventists, but we have folks from different denominations that will be participating in the event. So it's not, even if it's hosted by us, but we are incorporating everybody, because when it comes to helping humanity, it's bigger than denomination and bigger than religion. So we want to get everybody involved. So come out, we are appealing to our business places to give towards this noble venture. Come down to Heritage Square at 5:30 on Sunday evening and walk with some cans, walk with some non-perishable items, put them in the barrels, and we can assure you that everything that is donated will be given to this worthy cause.